Trump, come in. Put some gold leaf on the border and marble columns around Florida. Throw up his names in big lights over the Midwest and sell this whole place to the Chinese. Texas Rick Perry. So he runs for president twice. The first time, no, it doesn't make it. Second time, he puts on glasses and goes, I look smarter, and runs again, doesn't make it, and then does what no candidate in the history of this fucking country did. Looked around at all the jobs that someone could do that had a certain amount of dignity after you've run for the presidency.
Do you have a message for Trump supporters?
Oh, yeah. If you vote for Donald Trump, you're gonna go to hell.
LaJust dropped a comedy bomb on Trump that's got the whole internet buzzing. I mean, this wasn't just a roast, it was a full-on verbal smackdown. Lee didn't hold back for a second, calling out Trump's meltdowns and making the crowd lose it. You'd think by now Trump would be used to getting dragged, but this one hit different. Social media's blowing up, memes are flying, and somewhere in Mar-a-Lago, you just know Trump's thumbs are working overtime on Truth Social. This is the kind of takedown that's gonna sting for a while.
We're living in fictional times. If this was in a book, you go, this is a great book. Who could imagine the people that are around him, who could imagine those as characters? I find it hard. I look at Kellyanne Conway, but is she real? I'm not sure.
Donald Trump, the guy who could turn a simple press conference into a full-blown circus. It's almost impressive how one man can mix chaos, ego, and drama into one spray-tanned package. If political train wrecks had a trophy, he'd be polishing it daily, probably while bragging about how it's the biggest and best disaster anyone's ever seen.
You don't vote for Donald Trump, and the reason you don't vote for Donald Trump is one simple reason. He bankrupted a casino. It's almost impossible to bankrupt a casino. As a matter of fact, I could give any of you a casino. You could live in the hotel at the casino, and all day long you could drink, go to sleep, drink, your pants, go to sleep, and never, ever walk into the casino, okay? And on the 365th day, you could walk into that casino, and I promise you, you will have made a profit.
Remember when Trump swore he'd only hire the best people? Yeah, turns out his version of best was a parade of sketchy yes men and folks who couldn't spell their own job titles. His cabinet turnover was like watching a never-ending talent show where everyone got voted off the island. It felt like The Apprentice White House edition, except instead of picking experts, he just wanted people who'd smile and nod while he rambled about windmills giving people cancer. And let's not even start on his Twitter rants. You'd wake up to see the leader of the free world beefing with random celebrities, throwing out conspiracy theories, and somehow spelling coffee as kofef. It was like watching your uncle go on a Facebook meltdown after one too many energy drinks. The best part? Whenever someone called him out, he'd just scream fake news and double down, even when there was video proof. It's like he thought being president was just another reality show, where every disaster was just a plot twist and telling the truth was optional. Somehow, we all made it through that wild ride. But man, it felt like surviving a chaotic reality TV marathon with the world's most unpredictable host.
You talk a lot about the election in this show. Some people have said, oh, Donald Trump, that must make your job as a comedian so much easier. Do you feel that there's truth to that, or do you think that is false?
I think it's false. I think that it's made, I mean, like, you're sitting here.
Yeah.
And I was watching the first part, and you sit there and you put on, the news is the news is funny.
Yeah.
You don't have to do, all you had to do was go, ta-da! It leaves no room for, how do you make funny something that's already funny? How do you make it funnier?
He's genuinely funny. He's genuinely funny.
Yeah, no, it's hysterical.
Yeah. You've known Trump for a long time, you've known about Trump, and
if you're enjoying this, please subscribe. Alright, let's talk about the moment Trump won the election. It felt like the whole country just froze, took a deep breath, and immediately started panicking. People were looking at their TVs like, is this real life? Did that actually just happen? And then there's Lewis Black, the perfect guy to sum up that chaos. The man's basically a walking meltdown, always one rant away from bursting a blood vessel. He looked at America like a doctor trying to explain to a patient that they just swallowed a live grenade. No sugarcoating it, just pure, honest disbelief. We are not okay. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. That night felt like the country had accidentally hit the self-destruct button and was just waiting for the explosion.
Texas, Rick Perry. So he runs for president twice. The first time, no, it doesn't make it. Second time, he puts on glasses and goes, I look smarter, and runs again, doesn't make it, and then does what no candidate in the history of this fucking country did. Looked around at all the jobs that someone could do that had a certain amount of dignity after you've run for the presidency. And what did he say? No. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be on Dancing with the Stars. And then this man, who couldn't remember during the debates the name of the department that they were going to make him the head of, is then chosen to be the head of the Department of Energy. And then what I figure is Donald Trump turned on the TV, he saw him on Dancing with the Stars and went, fuck, he's got a lot of energy.
Trump's election didn't just divide the United States. It was like watching a cheap plate shatter into 1,000 pieces. From the moment he strutted on stage with that smug grin, as if he had just won the lottery to hell itself, things went downhill fast. Families started fighting over Thanksgiving dinners. Facebook turned into a breeding ground for wild conspiracy theories, cat memes, and the ever-present uncle who thinks climate change is just God testing the air conditioning. Trump wasn't running the country. He was stuck in the middle of a demolition derby inside a fireworks factory. And there, amidst the chaos, stood Lewis Black, the only one left who could react appropriately, by losing his mind over the absurdity of it all. Watching Trump try to run the country was like watching a dog behind the wheel of a car, with the dog somehow convinced it was acing the driving test.
It's already been a month since the election. I guess time flies when I'm not ripping out what's left of my pubes. Since Trump's victory, half the country is excited and the other half is still at home in the fetal position. Me, I'm coping by shutting off the news for a while and watching something a little cozier.
Trump's method of uniting the country was more like setting it on fire and then roasting marshmallows over the flames. Every time he spoke, it felt like reality itself had just taken a punch to the head. One minute, he was promising greatness. The next, he was lashing out at a teenager for winning an award. It was like watching a magician who kept revealing how the tricks were done, but still insisted he was the real deal. Lewis Black could hardly keep up because every day Trump would do something so ridiculous that satire writers could no longer compete. Why make up jokes when reality was already a walking punchline? By the time Trump hit his first 100 days, the country was absolutely drained. Lewis Black didn't need to exaggerate. He just read the headlines like a man discovering his house was built on top of a volcano. The chaos, the scandals, the endless shouting at imaginary enemies. America wasn't just divided, it was in a full-blown custody battle with itself. And there was Trump sitting on his golden toilet, tweeting away through the entire apocalypse.
Can you watch cable news? Is that how you sort of get yourself informed? Is that?
It's how I wake up. I turn it on and then I lose my mind. You sit there, they've got to be stopped. Four analysts for anything that happens. What did deplorable mean? It means deplorable, jackass! You know?
Let's not forget Trump's undying love for walls. The border wall was supposed to be his masterpiece, his own personal Great Wall of China, a structure so impenetrable that even logic couldn't break through. But after billions of taxpayer dollars, what did we end up with? A a glorified picket fence that smugglers sawed through with tools you could find at any local Home Depot. Who knew steel slats weren't the invincible fortress he envisioned? Answer: literally everyone except him. And then there's his business genius that he never stops bragging about. "I'm a genius," he claims, all while filing for bankruptcy more times than most people change their oil. The man treats bankruptcy like a strategy, not a failure. Casinos, airlines, universities, heck, he even managed to screw up steaks. Yes, steaks. Everything he touches turns to gold, and then, almost magically, collapses into a pile of unpaid bills and lawsuits. If business success were based on how many lawsuits you could rack up, Trump would be the Jeff Bezos of legal trouble.
Searching exactly. We've known these candidates forever. One of them has spent the past 4 years as vice president, and the other has spent the past 40 years as the worst person in America.
Trump's crisis management is the stuff of legends, if those legends were horror stories. Take Puerto Rico, for instance. The island is devastated by a hurricane, and what does he do? He shows up looking like an orange traffic cone, tossing paper towels into a crowd of survivors like he's in a basketball game, thinking that's gonna fix everything. Apparently his solution to flooding was bounty, not actually helping. Then California's on fire, and his genius plan: rake the forests. Yeah, because nature just needed a little tidying up. Maybe we should get Smokey the Bear a Roomba to handle it. And then the pandemic hit. The world is crumbling, and what's he doing? Complaining about how people aren't being nice to him in the press. People are dying, hospitals are at capacity, and he's on Twitter whining about his fake news problems. "I take no responsibility," he says. No kidding, that's the one thing he's consistently been good at. This isn't leadership. It's like giving a reality show host the keys to a country and expecting things to go smoothly. It's like putting a coked up weatherman in charge of NASA. Absolute chaos.
You've known about Trump, and one thing you have a strong opinion about are Trump's buildings.
When my father came to New York a while back to see me when Trump Tower initially opened, which was years ago, he wanted to go see it. And I said, okay, and I took him there. And we walked around, and he looked, and he looked, and he turned to me after we'd seen it, and he said, this is, I think, what Rome looked like just before the fall.
Trump's foreign policy, if we can even call it that, it was a mess of contradictions. He cozied up to dictators like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin as if they were just a couple of pals he met at a country club. Meanwhile, he turned his back on longtime allies, brushing off NATO as too expensive and letting Russia off the hook, all while declaring North Korea's leader really nice in between Kim's missile tests. If there were a romance novel about Trump and Kim Jong-un, it'd probably be titled Nuclear Kisses. Then there's Trump's grasp of history, utterly baffling. He once claimed the Continental Army fought at airports during the Revolutionary War. Yes, airports. 1776. Somewhere every history teacher's soul collectively left their body. His World War II knowledge? A never-ending incoherent ramble that somehow managed to sprinkle in very fine people. As for his election fraud claims, the man threw a tantrum that would make a toddler proud, screaming about a stolen election while presenting zero evidence, even after courts laughed him out of dozens of lawsuits. The real tragedy here? All those trees that had to die for the legal documents that proved his claims were nonsense.
The debates haven't even happened yet, but they're going to end, and they're going to be 8 or 12 of these idiots sitting around telling us, like we didn't see it, what we just heard. I know what I heard. These are ears, schmuck.
I know this has happened in the past, but I feel like this year, more than ever, you keep seeing on these panels, of those 4 of the 8 or the 12, there's always a few people who are campaign surrogates.
Yeah.
They are there to represent the campaign.
Yeah, isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
You know, the analysts aren't enough. You got to have somebody defend the person who's not there. And the idea, the only time I've ever heard the word surrogate used is sexual surrogate.
Sure.
So whenever I see a Trump surrogate or a Hillary surrogate, I feel like they've sent them on, instead of Donald and Hillary screwing us, they've sent these surrogates on to screw it.
Oh, I see. So it's still sexual for you.
It's still very sexual.
When we talk about Trump's social media, we have to remember his Twitter account was a wild ride. Before he was banned, his tweets were pure chaos. It was like watching a toddler with a megaphone. Instead of beauty tips, he was dropping misspelled conspiracy theories at 3 a.m. Yes, 3 a.m. And we'll never forget his infamous tweet about Kofef, which to this day, no one knows how to translate. Then there was that whole hamburgers debacle. Can you imagine? Grammar teachers everywhere probably cried themselves to sleep. And the audacity, oh man, Trump turned the presidency into his own personal ATM. He charged the Secret Service to stay at his properties. He set up this fake election fraud fund, and surprise, surprise, the money went straight into his pockets. At one point, he even tried to host an international summit at his own resort. Like, what was his morning routine? How can I break some more ethics laws today? And somehow, despite all this, his diehard fans still think he's a genius. This is the same guy who looked at a solar eclipse without protection. But hey, let's trust him to run the country, right? He once asked why we don't just nuke hurricanes. Seriously, he thought Frederick Douglass was still alive and called Tim Cook Tim Apple. Oh, and he's convinced sharks are plotting against him. It's like watching a bad sitcom where the main character is a walking disaster. But then there's Lewis Black, a man who spent years turning his rage into comedy gold. While Trump stumbles over his own words, Black cuts through the nonsense with the precision of a verbal chainsaw. He rants like a caffeinated tornado, and every time he unloads on Trump, it feels like he's voicing the frustrations of everyone else, only with 10 times more humor and maybe a bit more exasperation. Because let's be real, who doesn't feel like we've all been living through a never-ending comedy show?
Do you have a message for Trump supporters?
Oh yeah. And I'm saying this as a friend. If you vote for Donald Trump, you're going to go to hell. and I know this.
You know this.
I know this because God told me.
Trump's endless stream of self-serving nonsense is like rocket fuel for Lewis Black's comedy. Whether it's the unforgettable Sharpie-altered hurricane map, the bleach injection fiasco, or his personal war on windmills, Black turns every absurdity into a masterpiece of comedic rage. If Trump is the punchline, then Lewis Black is the one delivering it. Loud and clear. Here we are, years later, and Trump is still out there. Still ranting, still playing the victim, and still pretending he's got a master plan when all he's really doing is making it up as he goes along. But lucky for us, Lewis Black is still here too, still shouting, still exposing the absurdity, and still making sure we don't lose our minds in the process. If nothing else, Trump's given us a never-ending supply of material, and as long as he keeps talking, Lewis Black will always have something to scream about.